All righty. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Please forgive if there's some sort of delay going on. We are attempting to use a new streaming software today. And that has led to a learning curve, a massive learning curve, if you ask me. Anyways, welcome to the CEO Sit Down. I know it's been a minute since we've had one of these. For those of you who it's your first time joining us for CEO Sit Down, my name is Lauren Hatch. I'm the CEO and founder of Live Fearless Media and LF Teams. Every week, I come to you live to answer your questions about anything about business, life, marketing, branding, and whatever's on your mind. So we post a question box on my Instagram every single week where you can submit your questions, and then we pull some of the most common ones or what we think are some of the more important ones out of that list and come to you live to answer your questions here. If we do not get to your question here, head on over to my Instagram, Live Fearless CEO, where we do answer some in stories. If we don't get to your question this week, it could roll over to next week. So make sure you're hitting that follow button so that we can get you a notification the next time we go live. For those of you wondering, no, 11:34 on a Thursday is not our usual time. We have not figured out what the repeating time for 2026 will be. So it will be on Thursdays. It's going to be somewhere between 10 o'clock and noon Pacific Standard Time. We will let you know probably in the next coming days exactly what that day will be, to make sure that you can join us live. So we are currently trying to check and make sure that we're actually live streaming to where we're supposed to be live streaming to. Like I said, we're starting to use a whole new software, which has made things a little interesting. You, my channel. Just want to make sure you guys are up and running on a. Yes. Okay, we're good. Oop. We are good. We are running. Good. I don't want to run the live stream in at the same time as streaming because it will pull away from everything that we can see. So I want to pull up our questions for this week. We got a good number of them, so this will be, we'll probably get to about a quarter of these here, and then another half of them on Instagram, and then a couple will probably push to next week. So let's start with, ooh, this is a good one. What is the difference between the advice you give a for-profit business and a non-profit organization? So for those of you who don't know, Live Fearless Media works with both for-profit entities and non-profit entities. LF Teams does not. LF Teams is a completely for-profit business. We don't work with nonprofits because of the revenue requirements. Typically, nonprofits are not meeting those revenue requirements. But Live Fearless Media is a branding and marketing agency that allows startups, nonprofits, and people building smaller revenue to use my skills and the other skills of people who have been in what I like to call big media. Big media are people who've done things like large scale production, film, television, even large scale corporate and video, and use those skills to their advantage, whether that is on a consulting basis. That's a big part of what we do. But also in the case of things like actual production, we have full service production, we have full service social media strategy. We have helped businesses develop their own TV shows. We have done all kinds of things in that realm of taking these big production skills and making them available to small business. Why would we do that? Well, because of the fact that productions are expensive. And when you think about the average video dollar value of 1 minute of content within corporate video alone, that's $10,000 per finished minute, is about the average of large production scale. And because of that fact, 6-figure businesses, for the most part, and pretty much every nonprofit in the United States, or at least 86% of nonprofits in the United States, are not in a place to spend that kind of revenue regularly. So instead of doing it the way big businesses, we've taken those skills and we've created systems and we've created trainings and we've created ways to create the same level of production without spending that kind of money, which has made production available to small businesses and nonprofits. So this is why this question becomes so interesting, because we do coach and consult on productions, branding, marketing, media. It's a very common thing for nonprofits, especially, to say that they need to be different than for-profit businesses. Here's my opinion on all this, and I will tell you that a lot of people disagree with me, and it's a very unpopular opinion. There is almost no difference, almost zero difference between the way a for-profit entity and a nonprofit entity should function. The only real differences between a for-profit entity and a nonprofit entity are the way you apply the tax code. If you know me, you've heard me say this a million times. The way you keep your books and the way you apply the tax code is different in a nonprofit versus a for-profit entity. In some cases, actually, in the cases of services, that's not necessarily different. But that being said, there's very little difference. And when it comes to marketing, media, and branding, there should be no difference. The systems that work in for-profit work for a reason. And nonprofits like to say they don't need to market, they don't need to brand, they don't need to do the things, sales, all those kinds of things, because they're a nonprofit. Let me tell you, development, like as in fundraising development, is basically just sales without a product or service being exchanged. It's the same skill. It's actually harder, if you ask me. And if you apply the same skills that you use in traditional sales and marketing over to development, you would see acceleration for your nonprofit. I know this for a fact. I know for a fact, I know of several nonprofits that have taken their business backgrounds and applied them, traditional business backgrounds, and applied them to their nonprofits, and the growth curve explodes. So if you can take those traditional skills of marketing, branding, sales, and reapply them not one for one, but using the same systems, using the same kind of motivational tools, the same kind of psychology, the same kind of intentional audience building, etc., that we do in for-profit land that most nonprofits think they don't have to do. If you do this, I guarantee you, without a shadow of a doubt, because I've seen it over and over and over again, you will see acceleration in your nonprofit. I know it without a shadow of a doubt. I've seen it, I've done it. We've seen it over and over again, and not at Live Fearless Media. And those who continue to fight that, you won't see the growth you want. So let's go in a completely different direction here. I don't want to do social. Can I avoid it? Okay, so I'm going to do this from two different directions because I don't know what you mean by can I avoid it. So if you're saying, can I avoid it altogether, not do social media at all? I'm going to tell you no, absolutely not. You cannot go without social media in any capacity and expect your business to grow. It's just not a possibility these days. If you're telling me that you personally do not want to show up on your social media, then yes, you can. However, there's a caveat. We are no longer in a place where social media is only about a product or service. So like product photos, service photos, etc. You do have to have a name or a face or some sort of person that speaks to an audience available to your audience within your social media. So like a brand ambassador, a member of your team, somebody who works internally. One of my favorites, if the founder or CEO or executive really doesn't want to be in social media, is to use team members as the faces of the organization. So if you're relatively small or solopreneur, this doesn't work. In which case I would say use your clients as your faces if they're willing to speak about your business and your brand. You can work out deals, whether that's a reduction in their costs or alternate ways, but you do need some sort of human. Back to you absolutely cannot not do social. There is no way on God's green earth that a business today, I don't care what you sell, can get by without social media. And the reason being is we know statistically for anybody under the age of 50, which by the way, that's a very large group of people with a significantly growing amount of buying power, verifies a buy through social media. Now, I'm not just talking about influencer marketing where influencers give legitimacy to your organization and allow somebody to buy through influence. I'm talking about business to business. Like for a long time, people thought business to business didn't need social media, or if they did, they only needed LinkedIn. That is not the case anymore. People are verifying whether or not you can do the services that you do business to business through all platforms, especially the younger generations, millennials, Gen Zs, who are coming up in the business world. They are starting to verify whether or not they want to work with you, whether or not they should buy your software, have your service, get coached by you, all based on your social media presence. And no, I'm not just talking about coaches and consultants. I'm talking about anything. So if your plan is to not have social media at all, let me tell you what the numbers tell you. No social media, no online presence beyond maybe a website, a relatively small website, means you reduce your chances of sale to 3% or less. 97% of people will not buy without social media presence. If you are somebody who's trying to appeal to anybody under the age of 50, you need social media presence. And I am a big believer that it's any age, any generation now. The research hasn't been done on the older generations at nearly the rate it has on the younger generations, but I am someone who literally serves people. My youngest client that we have is 18, and my oldest client is 95 years old. 95. So let me tell you, there is no age at which social media is not important. It's part of the reason why for 2026, my business is putting such a huge push on it, because for a very long time, we did word of mouth strategies, and I didn't need to do as much social media in order to make that work. I could kind of post whatever the heck I wanted. This year, word of mouth still works. Don't get me wrong. We're not getting rid of those strategies, but social media has become part of the word of mouth process. So when somebody refers you out, they oftentimes will send your social media links to refer you out. So we've realized it's very important that not only we up our game in social media, because we're a marketing company and because we do branding and because we do social media and because we do production, but from the pure sales process thing. Why did I call it a thing? I don't know. From the pure sales process of it all, it helps validate what we do and who we are. And it helps with the sales process, especially if you're high ticket or your variety ticket. If you're just low ticket, you probably can run social media ads and just do that. You should probably have some strategy that is consistent, but you don't need to be posting every day. If you are high ticket or you run variety ticket means you have low ticket items like $27, $30 kind of books, courses, things like that. And then you run all the way to high ticket full service like I do. So my company runs from our lowest priced thing is 27, and we run all the way up to 10,000. And that's 10,000 a month, 120 grand a year. When you talk that variety within one company, that big of a ladder to scale in one company, you have to prove you're worth the value. In all honesty, for my low ticket, 27, 35, even $45 things, those kinds of things, social media advertising is pretty much all I need. Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads, etc. I don't need to prove the value of my content because most people are not going to verify it. But when I've got somebody who's going to pay me 120 grand a year, they sure as heck are going to verify whether or not the company is worth it. And they usually start with our social media. So that is what I would say to that. We're not going to get through nearly as many as I thought we were going to, but that's okay. Ooh, this is a good one. I've talked on this one a lot in the past. How do you maintain work-life balance? Work-life balance. Okay. So hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I don't believe in it. I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe in seasons. I believe in the fact that there are times, I believe in seasons and choices. I do not believe in work-life balance. I think work-life balance was a absolute scam sold to millennials and Gen Z to make us think that we could somehow make everything equal in our lives and somehow not go crazy. And what has happened is we've created this unrealistic expectation that somehow at all times we have to make these things exactly equal. And so it's like 8 hours for this, 8 hours for that, and 8 hours for rest. I can tell you, I almost never see that as a reality. Not as an entrepreneur. I don't know, because I didn't spend much time as a traditional workforce person. I had internships when I was young. I worked a lot when I was young. And then I went from the military to internships, working my butt off all hours of the day and night. I had a couple years in what would be considered a traditional job, a 9-to-5er. I think I spent like 2 years in that kind of job. And then I went from that to being an entrepreneur unintentionally. That's a whole nother story and a half. So, but because of the way my life has gone, I actually think the whole work-life balance is a complete and utter fallacy sold to us. And it's a constant struggle that we as a generation, both millennials and Gen Z, are constantly coming up against. And it causes more stress and strain than it probably should. I believe in seasons and freedom to choose. I believe that everybody has more or less freedom to choose, and you create that freedom to choose. So I have the choice of where I want to put my focus, my energy, and attention. Is it on my, and I have so much energy in a day, especially as a woman, when you're talking your cycle, because women, if you didn't know, women have a 28-day energy cycle based on our literal natural cycle. Men have a 24-hour cycle. I think men maybe, and I don't know, most men I talk to don't believe in a work-life balance either, but that may just be kind of like-minded camaraderie community kind of thing where we're just validating each other's biases. But that being said, I don't know with men. I will say with women, for the most part, I don't believe in it. I think you choose the things that are most important to you and you put focus there and you put systems around those things so that you can help support them. And I believe that you build your lifestyle with business in mind. If business is important to you, if family is important to you, you find a way to build your lifestyle with family and business being important to you. If rest and travel is important to you, you find a way to do business, rest, and travel. Like, you pick those things. You have freedom to choose where you put your attention, time, and energy. But there are seasons where you've just got to get it done. You've just got to go pedal to the metal, right? You've got a new big contract coming in. That's got to be given 100% of your focus, because nothing else really matters, because your business is either going to fly or flop based on it. Then you're going to put all your energy there, because that's what's important to you. You'll find a way to balance out these other things. That's why community is important. That's why family is important. That's why building structures is important, because when you've got to turn around and put all your energy into this one thing, you can't leave these things hanging with nothing to support them. But if you built structure, if you built community, if you've partnered with your family, if you're married, then your spouse. For those of us who are single, we don't have a spouse, but like, for instance, my mother is my saving grace when I go into a season where I can't come up for air. She is the one who picks up the family part and holds on to it when I can't do that. And so there becomes this process of choosing what's important to you, but also building systems and relationships into your life that help support the other things if you have to drop them. Because your life should not be dependent upon only you. And so it should not feel like you're abandoning something if you're not creating balance between the two things, or not able to focus 100% on both these things. You should not feel like you're a horrible person because you have to choose with your life. I think freedom of choice is much more important, specifically when it comes to energy and attention, that it's much, much more important than work-life balance will ever be. In fact, I just don't think work-life balance exists, but that may just be because of the way I live my life. We'll do one more off of this, and then I'll answer some more on Instagram a little later today. How do I deal with family and friends who think I'm nuts? Okay, this is probably the most common question out there when it comes to starting a business, or really starting anything that is non-traditional. Little story time. When I started Live Fearless Media, 99% of the people in my life that I considered close to me, family and friends, thought I was absolutely off my rocker. Anybody who knows the story of Live Fearless Media knows that that kind of started as my plan B. I had been unemployed for almost a year. I had almost no money to my name. In fact, I had 70 cents in my bank account at the time. And I had moved back in with my mother, and my life was looking absolutely insane. And I was still trying at the time, despite the fact that I'd sent thousands of resumes out at that point, to get a traditional job. Every single day I was trying to get a traditional job. And door after doorway after doorway closed. So much so that when I interviewed to get a job as a Starbucks barista or at McDonald's to work in the kitchens, I was denied jobs at those establishments, which I thought anybody could get jobs there. I got to be honest, not to speak badly of those who work in those places, but I just thought, like, fast food restaurants don't turn people down, right? Or at least that's what I thought. I was even denied a job there. And for those of you wondering, like, what did you do that you couldn't get a job for over a year? I didn't do anything horrible or illegal or anything of that nature. I literally was fired from a job for failing a licensing exam that was required for me to keep my job. And they couldn't keep me in the position because I wasn't licensed to do the work. And I then spent the next year, because you can't take the licensing. I thought I was going to go back to another job exactly like that. You can't take those kinds of jobs without licenses, but you also can't get licensed, or at least at the time you couldn't. That's changed a little bit. You can't get licensed without already being in one of these companies. So it's a little bit of a catch-22. And so I was in a position where I couldn't get somebody to hire me, but I also couldn't get my licenses, and it spiraled. And I was looking for a job anywhere that would give me the time of day. Nobody would hire me. And so I said, okay, so I have to do I need a plan B. I need a non-traditional avenue to give myself an opportunity. And I originally started, it was just consulting and contract work, one-off contracts, short-term, long-term, anything that would give me the time of day, website development, social media production, SEO, basically any skill in marketing and branding that I could think of. Went on a horribly produced website, and I went out to the world looking for it. Well, when I started this, I remember having conversations with my family and friends, and majority of people said, no one will pay you for this. Now, remember, this is pre-COVID. This is several years pre-COVID. I'll be 8 years into this later this year. We're over 7 years into this. 8 years, our 8-year anniversary is in October. And so this is in 2017, going into 2018. And at the time, while social media was important and web development was important, it wasn't essential. So most people did it internally, did it themselves, hired their nieces and nephews to do these kinds of things, or they hired somebody within their team to figure it out. And the reason I know that's the way they did it was that's actually how I gained my skills, right? I gained my skills not because I was hired in marketing or branding or web development. No. I was hired for analytics. I was hired as a financial analyst. I was hired as a trading desk analyst. And then because I was the youngest person in the room, I was handed the website and said, figure it out. I was handed social media and they said, figure it out. And this was very common pre-2020. 2020 happens and the world shifts, because not only does everybody need a professional level website, they need professional level social media, they need marketing help, they need branding, they need an online presence. And that didn't go away when COVID went away, right? That just stuck around. And so at the time, my family had no idea what would be coming, right? 3 more years before COVID hits. And well, really 2.5 years before COVID hits. And at the time, this was not essential. And so my family says, nobody's going to pay you for that. My friends say, nobody's going to pay you for that. You're crazy. You've lost your mind. Until you get into one of these internal teams, you're just not going to be doing it anymore. And I knew what I was doing wasn't working. I needed something. And so I started building and looking for opportunities and growing. But here's what I know, having had the conversations with my friends and families post-fact. My friends and family were scared. They loved me. They care about me. If you have family that truly loves you, when you tell them you're going to step out on this journey, they were probably going to be highly concerned. Especially if your family happens to know business, right? So my family, for those of you who don't know, I am the black sheep in my family as far as business goes. My family's all in financial services, specifically high net worth financial services. Things like private wealth management. And my family knows the statistics and data behind building businesses, whether businesses will be a success, what it usually takes, all of the things. And so my family and friends were sitting there going like, maybe this is not a good idea. Maybe this will all fall apart too. And they didn't want to see me hurt. They didn't want to see me fall. They didn't want to see me fail. Now, did they do it in the right way? Absolutely not. I've had this conversation with many friends and family since that day, where I'm sitting there going, I really wish that you had just said you were concerned. You were scared. You didn't know what was going to happen. All those things would have been acceptable. I would have said, okay, I get it, and explained my side of things. Instead, you chose to come to me and be extremely afraid for me and try to talk me out of this. And what happens in that process is when they try to talk you out of it, you start to doubt what's in your head. And you start to go, oof, like maybe they're right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I need to give this up. Maybe this is not the way to go. And this is what I know. If God has placed it in your heart to do something, if you have a passion, a dream, a thing you can't let go of, go do it. That doesn't, by the way, you do not have to do it the way I did, right? I had no choice but to go all in because nothing else was working. And this was my only option and opportunity, right? That was my story. This was the only way I was making money at the time. At which point it didn't make sense for me to continue to invest in trying to get a job internally with another company when I was making money this way. But at the same time, you don't have to do that. You can maintain your regular day-to-day 9 to 5 and work this as your 5 to 9. It is very possible to build a business while you're still running your 9 to 5. You do not have to take the risk of not having a 9 to 5. You do not have to take the risk of not having stable income. You do not have to do any of these things. And oh, by the way, for those of you out there who have a dream and vision of building something for yourself, who maybe are like a stay-at-home mom, you can do this too and be a stay-at-home mom. I guarantee it. I've seen it. I've helped build it for people. You can find, it comes back to that area of what are you going to choose for yourself, for your focus, your time, your attention. You can choose this for yourself. You can choose to integrate this. But with that choice, you have to build the systems to make it possible. You have to build the community to make it possible. Don't run this race alone. Even if you go out there and you're going to be a solopreneur, I'm a solopreneur. For those of you who don't know, I own my businesses by myself. I have no outside investment. I have no external partnership. I have nobody else's name is on the line except for mine. And the people that work for me work for me. I'm a solopreneur in every definition of the word. Just because I'm a solopreneur does not mean I run this race alone. Just because I am the only owner of my businesses does not mean I am the only one with ownership in the game. Just because I am the only one building the business does not mean I am the only one supporting the business. If you want these things and you've got other things in your life, you can make the choice. You just have to create the systems and the community to make them real. All right, I'm going to do one more because we didn't get through many. Oh, we're going to do this one because this is a little bit off topic from everything else, but it is something I'd like people to know about. The question is, do you take prayer requests? Okay, so long story short of history of myself as an individual, as well as the Fearless Media, because they were highly involved in this. Do I take prayer requests? Yes. The short answer is yes. I take prayer requests at any time. For those of you who don't know, I am a kingdom entrepreneur, meaning I am a Christian business owner, a Christian entrepreneur, and I have no problem saying that publicly. I am not the kind, if you look at my content, I will do more what I say is God-informed content, not necessarily God in your face content. But for a period of time, I actually did 800 prayer-based live streams throughout 2020 and 2021. 800. For those of you wondering how we can manage to do that when there aren't 800 days in 2 years, Some days we had 3 a day, 3 prayer services a day. Some we had 2, some we had just 1. But I did 800 live streams, and I have the receipts for that, if you ever wondering. So I have an extensive network of prayer warriors that pray over business, that pray over life, that pray over families, that pray over jobs, because sometimes people just want jobs prayer and not necessarily business prayer because they don't want to start a business. We pray over our nation as a whole. We pray for health and healing. We pray for deliverance. We pray for restoration. We pray for a lot of things, leadership. And so we have a whole network of prayer warriors. I do not do live prayer anymore, admittedly. But if you do have a prayer request, I would suggest sending it to us in a DM. You can send it to us at Live Fearless CEO or Live Fearless Media, both intake prayer requests. And I am more than happy to share that with my intercessory team and be praying over any thoughts or prayers that you might have, whether that is a prayer for a business you are starting, or a health situation you are facing, or a business that you are growing. Let me make this very clear. As a kingdom entrepreneur, I am a big believer in prayer over your business, especially if you're a Christian business owner. If you are not getting intercessory prayer over your business and you are a kingdom business, get intercessors around you. And you can start with us. We're more than happy to pray for you. But if you have personal friends and family that are intercessors, also include them in this process. Even if they are maybe not on the same page as you as far as what you are thinking of doing with your life or business. Because trust me, intercession. I can't even tell you the number of battles I've had to wage since I started being a business owner. And it's essential to invite God into that process. And it's essential that you have an army of people behind you, for lack of a better way to put this. So if you have a healing prayer request, you have a business prayer request, you have a life prayer request, you have a family prayer request, I don't care what the prayer request is for, send it our way. We would love to pray with and for you. Okay, with that being said, I've gone way over the time I thought I would go, but thank you for joining us today. And I hope that you have just a beautiful day.